Kenworth has done a lot of stuff right with this T680. Big stuff like a 10% improvement in aerodynamics over the T660, and small stuff like perfectly repositioning the throttle pedal and designing a storage cabinet that's big enough to store a hard hat. I'm freelance truck journalist Jim Park, coming to you from the vicinity of Ellensburg, Washington, where we spent a full 14-hour day putting this remarkable truck through its paces. In part one of our video series, we spent much of our time looking at the truck's ride and handling. As you just saw, we also gave the Cummins ISX and the Eaton Ultra Shift Plus a darn good workout on those 5 and 6% grades on Interstate 82 south of Ellensburg. In part two, I'm taking you up close and personal with the T680, highlighting some of the new design features that make this, in my opinion, one terrific truck. Let's start with the cab itself. It's made of stamped aluminum, which is something new for Kenworth. That required a whole new manufacturing process. Its highly tooled design provides greater consistency in manufacturing, which means greater consistency in the finished product. The doors feature a swing-in hinge rather than the traditional piano hinge. That gave engineers more latitude in the hinge placement, and that led to a number of other design improvements. The mechanical clutch linkage is gone. It's replaced by an air-assisted hydraulic linkage. The feel is just right. The clutch brake is still down at the bottom of the pedal throw where you expect it, and it takes a whole lot less force to push the pedal down. With the mechanical clutch linkage out of the way, engineers were able to reposition the driver's seat, moving the driver's hips upward and forward for a better, more comfortable driving position and more interior space. Kenworth engineers also talked to a lot of body shop technicians to identify areas on the rear of the sleeper that sustain a lot of minor damage from backing jackknife mishaps. They then redesigned the rear corners of the sleeper to make it easier and less costly to repair. A new two-piece bumper, a 3-section hood, and a new sleeper side panel design all help keep repair costs down. One of the features Kenworth seems particularly proud of is this cool swiveling table. In this position, it's out of the way, making more room in the sleeper and between the seats. But swiveled over to the center, it becomes a well-positioned desk and eating table. To get the best use out of this new feature, the design team added an optional swivel passenger seat to turn around and face the table. Kenworth says the table can support up to 400 pounds. But that's one claim I wasn't too keen to test. And just above both the driver and the passenger seats, they've added cubby holes large enough to stash, among other things, a hard hat. Nice touch there, Kenworth. The new dashboard is as attractive as it is functional. It needs to be both because drivers stare at it all day long and they're in constant contact with it. The various rocker switches here are robust and firm feeling, and the important ones have little lights inside that change from amber to green or red when you use them. The critical controls are all within easy reach and they're well lit at night. You may have to reach a little for some of those controls you use less often, but you don't want to be reaching over and hitting the fifth wheel slider release, for example, while you're going up a hill. I found the dash is nice and evenly lit for night driving, but I did find there were some distracting gauge reflections in the side windows. Up front and outside, where we get down to the basics, I found the engine compartment was well laid out and clean, and the driver can do all the fluid level checks from the ground on the left-hand side. It's not that hard to step over the bumper to get in for a closer look, and adding oil won't be a problem with this well-placed filler pipe. The electrical and air connections on the firewall are neatly arranged and easy to inspect visually. One part of the driver's life that hasn't been made easier is cleaning the windshield. And here's a criticism I'll level at all truck makers. It's difficult and possibly dangerous to climb up onto the front wheels in order to get your squeegee to the center of the windshield. And the lack of a handhold and foot placement make climbing up onto the truck a tricky exercise. I'd gladly give up the 0.03% in aerodynamic drag a handle on the hood cowl might create in order to keep a driver from taking a header off of a wet steer tire. I really think Kenworth hit a home run with this T680. It's the first totally new design Kenworth has produced since the T2000 emerged back in 1996. They invested a lot of design resources into keeping the total cost of ownership low while optimizing driver comfort and functionality. The company's 4-year, $400 million investment was, I think, well spent. If you haven't already, check out part 1 of our video series where I take you up and down some serious hills. For today's Trucking's Ultimate Test Drive series, I'm freelance journalist Jim Park here on the outskirts of Ellensburg, Washington. Drive safe and keep your revs down.